Hi, and welcome to Screens in Focus, the podcast where we talk about TV and movies. I'm Diana, and today we are talking about movie soundtracks, the ones that stick with you long after the credits roll. Renee is here to join me. I'm so glad. Hi, Renee. How are you?
Hello, I'm here and excited. How about you?
I'm great. I can't wait to talk about this. So I feel like music has been, with me anyway, the last week because you and I did a podcast on music videos. And did you see the Fire Aid benefit concert for Los Angeles
See the whole thing,
fires?
but I've seen clips of different performances and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also the Grammys.
Yeah.
So I just feel like music is all around us. So it makes me really excited because I feel like I've just been seeing a lot of performances. So
Yeah.
I'm just thrilled that we can continue this music ride that I feel like I'm on and all of us hopefully are on, because music is so important to our lives and movies and all kinds of things. So I want to start with our question of the day. And that is, what is a song from a movie soundtrack you think could stand alone? Meaning it would have been a hit with the movie or not. Okay, so Renee, I want you to think about that. Friends out there, you think about it, and we'll answer that a little bit later on. But right now, Renee, what I would like to know is, what is a movie where the soundtrack made it unforgettable for you?
I went with Rocky 4 because
Oh,
I
okay.
just remember watching that movie and the songs and things included in that. I just felt so patriotic, which is, you've got Survivor and you've got Hearts on Fire by John Cafferty, and of course Living in America by James Brown, and No Easy Way Out by Robert Tepper. And they were all just these kind of anthems. Like
Yeah.
usually you have one good anthem in a soundtrack, but this was just like hitting it home with a lot of them. And it was this like kind of movie to make you kind of feel patriotic and things like that. So yeah, I think that was just, I just remember when I read that question, I was like, that was the first movie that popped in my head.
Yeah, that's a good one. There are going to be so many soundtracks that we don't talk about because there
Yeah.
are so many out there. We had done a podcast episode on music videos. And after we finished, I thought about Sinead O'Connor. We forgot to talk about Sinead, and nothing compares in that teardrop
Mhm.
coming down her face. So
Yeah.
I know once we are done here, there are going to be so many more. So I want to let our friends out there know that I will put links in our show notes of things that you and I talk about, questions that we have, and also just things I remember to put in there or corrections that I need to make. So, because I tend to do that in our show notes, I'll add little tidbits that I think are important or that people, want to know.
Mhm.
So, okay. So for me, I'm going to say Grease, because there are so many songs in there that were impactful to me as a kid, watching that, listening to Olivia Newton-John singing Hopelessly Devoted to You, and just so many of the songs
Mhm.
that are so good.
Grease
Uh,
Lightning.
yes, actually, that was one of my favorite
I
ones. So
love
thank
that.
you.
Yeah, the dance routine and everything was just so fun.
All of it, every single song on there is just
Mhm.
so good. And it's just one of my favorites. But I also have to bring up a soundtrack that was really impactful to me, and that is Tommy, and that is from 1975. And the reason it was impactful to me is I had heard the album over and over and over and over again before I even saw the movie, because that was a long time ago. And my neighbors who were my friends had gone to see the movie, and then they put the album on, and I had no idea what this album
Mhm.
was. And for anyone else that doesn't know it, it's The Who. So Roger Daltrey plays Tommy, and it's all of The Who's, their album. And all I did was listen to the album over and over and over again. And they would tell me what was happening in every scene. And so that is why that one was impactful to me. Once I saw the movie, I'm like, this is weird.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie?
Not the whole thing, because
Renee?
I was like, I'll just listen to the music.
Exactly.
I love the Who. That's great, but yeah, it was a little odd.
Yes. So what's interesting is I feel like the album is the thing that is really good in this, right? Compared to the movie, usually it's the movie and
Yeah.
the soundtrack adds to it, but in this case, it might be vice versa. But anyway, so those are the ones that, really are unforgettable to me. So, the role of movie soundtracks, they enhance the storytelling and they set the mood and they connect audiences to the film. And for me, and I think maybe for you, because we always talk a lot about the 80s, I feel like there were so many soundtracks during that time that were impactful. So we are going to talk about the 80s, but we are going to talk about other decades too, just so our friends out there know. But Renee, start us off with something with a soundtrack that you loved or you thought was impactful for that time.
Top Gun. The movie itself was, just phenomenal. And then you add in all these songs that were just incredible. And again, kind of like the same thing with the Rocky IV thing. They were just these great, they just fit so well. They weren't all like the big anthems like that, but they were, you had Danger Zone. I mean, that's just such a, that's been used in so many different things over the years. A little bit of trivia. I like to throw that in if I can find it or if I have known everything. But Toto was originally supposed to sing that. And then there was some legal something. They couldn't. They asked Bryan Adams, they asked REO Speedwagon and Corey Hart, and they all declined.
Wow.
And then Kenny Loggins. Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting because I honestly can't, who else could sing that but Kenny Loggins,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought that was really neat. And then, of course, you've got like, You've Lost That Loving Feeling when Maverick sings to Charlie at the bar. And they, that was, again, an iconic thing. People have done that. They've mimicked that in different things, even on TikTok, just lots of stuff. So that was very iconic. And Take My Breath Away. I mean, that was just that was, the song during the, 84, the romantic song. And so I just felt like that, it was just, it fit so well. And the movie was outstanding, but that soundtrack just, and the anthem too, the Top Gun anthem, that's another addition
the
to
music.
It. Yeah. So so that was one of the ones I just was like, that was just such a big thing, for a lot of people. And me included, I remember just love that movie and how much the music added to it.
Yes, definitely. And with you bringing up Kenny Loggins, I'm going to talk about Footloose because he was on fire with all these soundtracks at that time, right? Because Footloose was also in 1984 and it was so energetic. And that song to me, it makes you want to get up and dance. You can't help it. And there's no way you can imagine that song without Kevin Bacon in his jacket dancing that dance. You just can't. It's so, iconic and you almost can't separate that. And there were other songs in that soundtrack too. Let's Hear It for the Boy.
Yeah.
That was and I loved it when they would dance together. It was just a cool soundtrack. And I really liked that one too. Okay. What else do you have for us?
Okay. I've got another one. It's kind of a category. Any John Hughes Brat Pack soundtrack because they were always so good. And I like new wave music a lot. That was always kind of I love rock music. I love all kinds of music, but I get in these moods, and so I definitely have a new wave mood. And a lot of those songs, they had Psychedelic Furs and Oingo Boingo, Simple Minds, OMD, and they're all kind of in that vein, and there were lots of other songs in all those different movies because those were like from Pretty in Pink, Weird Science, Breakfast Club, and that kind of thing. But I just, again, those movies as teens growing up watching those, the movies were so, there was a lot of it that was over the top, but a lot of it was very relevant and kind of relatable, as a teen. And then the music, again, just added to it. And I know not everyone's a huge music fan, but I have always, music's just always been this thing with me, and so to have those songs really fit the stories and things like that. I just think John Hughes always did a really good job, or whoever did the music for his movies did such a great job fitting that together.
I couldn't agree with you more. I love John Hughes movies by their own. And then all those soundtracks and all those bands and all those songs that you were just talking about, resonate with me too. And I agree. Music is so important. It's been important throughout my whole life. When I was a kid, I would listen to vinyls. That's before that they're in now, but that's what we used to listen to. And I would just listen to them. And I still have a lot of them. And so, yeah, those are just those are really good choices. I also want to bring up Purple Rain, 1984, Prince's masterpiece. It defined or redefined soundtracks with hits like When Doves Cry, Purple Rain, Let's Go Crazy, all of those. So it's so seamlessly blended into that film. And it is regarded as like one of the top soundtracks of all time. So, I love it.
Oh yeah. Love it. Love it. And then on my list, I had my favorite soundtrack of all time. It's the Lost Boys soundtrack. I love that. Well, I love the movie, but that soundtrack is incredible. And people don't there's a lot of things people don't realize in that. Like there are several cover songs, like a lot of cover songs that people didn't realize were covers because they weren't necessarily popular. I mean, even the I Still Believe, where he's up on the stage with the saxophone, that is a cover, and so, they did Echo and the Bunnymen did People Are Strange, which is originally by the Doors.
Oh, yes.
And I love that version. It's such it's a little slower and kind of showing you the town, it's just, I love that opening scene when they do that. And of course, Roger Daltrey sang Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, which is an Elton John song. And so, which that's been covered several times by different people. George Michael did a beautiful version of it. But this Roger Daltrey, that's included in that. And then Lost in the Shadows by Lou Gramm that's not a cover, but he's from Foreigner, and so it's just fun to put those pieces together. And I don't think there's a bad song on the soundtrack. And one other one it's like in the movie for, I don't know, not even a minute, is that Shock of Miss Louise. It's that carousel song when they're on the carousel, and it's this very broken, that carousel kind of thing. And Thomas Newman actually did that. And so it's pretty cool to have that. So it's just such a fun soundtrack. And I just can't. Yeah, I just love it.
I have to go back and listen to it. Of course, some of the songs that you said, but that carousel song, I can't place it. So now it makes me want to go back and listen to it. And to be honest, I hadn't thought of their soundtrack at all for that movie, but I'm sure that's why I love that movie too, because one, the movie's so good, but also, yes, when you put that music on top of what you're already watching, it just heightens so much. And I love People Are Strange. I don't even know, what's the actual title of that song? I don't even know, but
I think it's People Are Strange. I think
People Are Strange. I just know that's the lyric that I recall.
Yeah, but I think that's But so it's Echo and the Bunnymen who do it in the Lost Boys, and it was originally done by the Doors. So it was just a very familiar song, but in their own kind of style, so it was fun to see that. And then, and I forgot to mention INXS and Jimmy Barnes. And Jimmy Barnes is another Australian musician. They covered, the cover song was that Good Times. And that's a really fun song. I really like it. Both their voices are so good together. So,
Yep. Such a good. I love it.
And I wore my Lost Boys shirt and, so.
I love that. I love that you have a shirt. It's so cool.
Well, it came with the Funko Pop. So I got it.
Nice. Okay. So anybody wants a Funko Pop, you might get a t-shirt with that too.
Well, I think this one was a Target
limited
exclusive
edition.
It was a Target exclusive, and it was several years ago. So, yeah.
Nice.
So maybe you'll find one somewhere.
Yeah. All right. So I also want to add to our list of 80s soundtracks, and that would be from 1987, Dirty Dancing. Iconic songs like I've Had the Time of My Life and Cry to Me made the soundtrack so unforgettable, perfectly capturing the movie's romance and passion. That song, Cry to Me, I had to go listen to it again because it was in my head.
Mhm.
I have the vinyl soundtrack, but that song, there's something about it that just kind of hits me. And that's an older song, right?
Yeah.
Of course, they were using it because this was set
Mhm.
back in time, right? It wasn't when they made it in the 80s, but
Yeah.
that song, and there's so many other songs in this. Patrick Swayze sang a song on it, and
Yeah.
there's just so many other songs that are so good in this. So that is just one that really resonates and I remember in my mind. All right, so let's move a little bit beyond the 80s. What do you have for us, Renee?
So one movie that I just absolutely love is called Sing Street, and it's a 2016 movie, and it's set in the 80s, and it's in Dublin, and it's like this. This is how I kind of box the movie, the description. I say it's boy meets girl. Boy likes the girl, so he creates a band to impress her. That's like, but the soundtrack's incredible. You've got Duran Duran and The Cure and all these, new wave bands and things like that. But it's like this evolution of this little garage band, and they're in high school they're in the all boys school and all this stuff, and they change their style. It's almost like they'll play a song, say they'll play Hall & Oates. Well, then the next song they are singing, it's an original song of theirs, but it's very definitely inspired by Hall & Oates or Duran Duran or The Cure or whatever. And it's just a very good soundtrack. And there's a lot of original songs and stuff. And then there's a few of the 80s songs that and things. But it's just a great movie. And it's one of those like unsung hero movie. People just don't know about it. It's just I think it doesn't get the recognition it should,
Right.
So, yeah. So that one, that's one more modern that I really, really like.
You made me think of something that I had to kind of look up as you were talking, because you're like, whoa, you brought up something that I hadn't even thought about. So this wasn't even on my list, but Renee, you have inspired me. But this movie that I saw made me go and get the soundtrack, and that is The Commitments.
Oh.
It is a movie from 1991. Have you heard of this movie?
Yeah, I think I watched it way back when, but I don't remember a lot about it. But I do, or I know the soundtrack. Something. Yes, I'm familiar with the movie, but I have not. Yeah.
Yeah, it is so good. So it's in Dublin, Ireland. That is what where it is set. And when you said Sing Street is where are they located at?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In Dublin, yeah.
So I think and what year was that made?
2016.
Do you recall? 2016. Okay, so this is from 1991. But it says Jimmy, a self-proclaimed promoter, decides to organize an R&B group to fill the musical void in his hometown of Dublin, Ireland. And it goes on from there. It's entirely of white musicians who have little experience with the genre. But all I remember, I was moved by hearing their voices and the music they sang. And it, of course, tells about their lives and their love lives and goes on from there. But I just remember being blown away by that soundtrack. So check that out.
Yeah, yeah. Also, because I think I watched it when it first came out, but I don't remember much about. I mean, I knew it was like a music, kind of a band and whatever kind of thing. Right. But yeah, I'll have to go revisit that. Yeah, for sure. Another one that I love, and it's Bohemian Rhapsody, the movie, because it was just it's Queen, so I mean that just right there, that's why, yeah. But
yeah,
there's just so much about that movie that's so good, and it's just fun to see the ways that Queen put things together, and they broke all these barriers and tried to do all these things that were just, they didn't want to be mainstream. They wanted to be rock and roll, and they wanted to be their own rock and roll kind of thing. And I always tell people, your desert island band music would be Queen, because they fit you can find a song for any emotion. You know what I mean? The way you're feeling, the way if you're happy, if you're sad, if you're, whatever, melancholy, whatever, they've got a song to go for it. And one thing that I really remember about the opening of that movie, because my daughter and I are counting down to go to the theater to see this, So we get there and the movie starts and the 20th Century Fox fanfare starts playing and it's Brian May on the guitar. So it has that because he uses that coin as his pick. So it has that tinny little, there's just that noise, that Brian May sound. And we listened and we both looked at each other just with these wide eyes like, oh gosh, this movie's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another one. I listened to that one. And it's all the familiar songs and things, a lot of the popular ones, which I like. Some of my favorite Queen songs are the ones that were never very popular, but that, just such a great soundtrack.
What's your favorite? Do you have a favorite song?
Yeah, it's White Queen. It was released in 1974. And it starts out slow and his voice is just incredible. I mean, Freddie's voice throughout the thing, but then it does get very rocking then it slows down. It's very, it's such a moving song to me. And that's my absolute favorite Queen song. It's just incredible.
I wholeheartedly agree. I was such a Queen fan. I love them. I love their music and I love that movie and I love the soundtrack. So I love it all.
I remember being a child and I always wanted to listen to the Bicycle song.
Yeah.
And as you got older, you're like, oh yeah, that was that song.
Yeah. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Well, I have Bodyguard 1992 on my list. Whitney Houston.
Yeah, right.
Come on. I Will Always Love You.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that song is so huge. Oh, I can see, of course, the movie was good.
Yeah.
It was a good movie. I liked the movie, but that song, the music, that soundtrack is just so unforgettable. Her voice on it. And so it is one of the best selling singles of all time.
Oh yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah. Let's see, what else did I have on my list? Oh, Forrest Gump. I love that movie. It's just one of those good, really good, I just loved it. But the music was so great because it, went through this evolution of all the years you're watching Forrest do all his things. The music just evolved right along with him. So this, it's a very diverse, soundtrack because you're spanning all those generations, those ages of different types of music and stuff. And so it's just always kind of a fun one, for those older songs and stuff.
I also think with that movie, I remember other than the songs, the music. Mm-hmm. There is music in that
floating and stuff.
Yes,
I forget what
exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much because it opens and it bookends the movie and it's so good.
Yeah, but you remember it. You recall it, you feel it. It gives you the sense of the movie and that hopefulness that I don't know, it makes me feel warm, makes me feel happy, it's hopeful, even though it's a little bit sad, it's still hopeful. And so that's, along with all the great songs, that's what I remember about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have another one that might be a little bit different. Mm-hmm. This is from 2000, and it is "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?"
Oh, so that's a great one.
This revitalized bluegrass and folk music, introducing traditional Americana to a new generation. That movie was funny. It was like it wasn't anything like we had seen before. So the movie itself was funny. It was really well made. But then you have them singing. I can't help but seeing George Clooney like going up to the mic and doing that song. I'm sorry, I don't know the names of the songs right now off the top of my head, but I know my husband got that soundtrack because he just thought it was such a cool, good soundtrack. So
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had another one this one's a little different too. It's the original Muppet movie soundtrack from 1979 because well, first of all, it's just such a great movie. I just remember watching that as a kid, and then as I've gotten introducing it to my kids and then to my grandkids, it's like, you guys have to see this movie. It's so good. And, they had the Rainbow Connection and Moving Right Along. And I love that one that Rolf sings. It's, I hope that something better comes along. And then, of course, you have, the Electric Mayhem, the band, the Muppet band, So, yeah, that was just one from my childhood that I was like, oh, that's a really good one because there's so many fun songs in that. So that was just a different one to add. Yeah.
I like Kermit's song.
Rainbow Connection. That one?
Yeah, I guess it is Rainbow Connection. Yeah, I had to think about it for a second. I'm like, wait, which was that one?
I know, because sometimes I know the song, but not what it's called. Like, what? You know the song? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, there was another one that I was going to mention. Oh, Can You Picture That is another one and I think that's the Electric Mayhem sings that one. But they were just such fun songs, the Moving Right Along and everybody, it's just fun. And the Muppets are just fun.
They are fun. So I'm going to bring up one that has two movies. It has more than two movies attached to it, but it has two movies that are in my brain, and that is A Star is Born.
Oh, yeah.
And I love both the 1976 and the 2018, both films, both soundtracks. The earlier one, the one with Barbra Streisand and Chris Christopherson, those songs, that soundtrack, I could sing along with it right now. Queen, or the Black Widow is in the middle. Oh, I could sing it. I could do it right now. I'm not, because you don't want to hear me sing, but an evergreen, won an Academy Award that it was out. And then here we had Lady Gaga win for Shallow in their version. Yeah. So just that movie, I guess, lends itself to Academy Award winners and them singing, different songs with that backdrop of a movie. And just the soundtracks were just incredible because they are about singers, musicians, artists. And so I just love those movies and love those songs. Okay, what else do you have?
I put like the Guardians of the Galaxy the soundtracks because they were, again, 70s, 80s, and 60s, I think maybe 60s and 70s actually. But, they were just fun. They just fit the movie well. And they just, there's certain songs that come on like that. I just think of the scene in Guardian Galaxy during those songs, And so I just really enjoyed that a lot. I'm not a huge superhero or whatever you call those movies, but I love the Guardians of the Galaxy movies because I thought they were just a lot, a little different and fun and quirky or whatever. But yeah, those soundtracks were incredible. And I like
they are.
Volume 1, 2, they had them like, I love the album art and things. Yeah. So yeah, those are fun.
I had that on my list as well. And I love the 70s, 80s classics. And for some reason, the song right now that's in my head is Fooled Around and Fell in Love. I just think that lyric, I think when I was younger, I thought, oh, okay, whatever. But now I'm like, that's such a cool lyric.
Yeah, it is.
Because, it's just some guy just like, doing his thing, thinking, I'm just coming along here,
didn't mean with for this whoever. To happen, but
yeah, exactly. But damn, look what happened. I fell in love.
That's right.
I love that song.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to bring up Hamilton.
Oh, yeah, that's
which is 2015. Lin-Manuel Miranda, such groundbreaking blend of hip hop and Broadway, redefined musical theater and became this cultural phenomenon. So actually, personally, I don't listen to a lot of hip hop, but this, I listened to it and I liked it. And it just, you had to listen to it because that's how you figured out the story. So, but it was just
telling the story with those, with the songs. Yeah.
With all of that. So it was just really well done. And so, I really like that soundtrack too.
It's funny because my daughter, who is my punk girl, she loves that. She listens to it all the time. She listens to a lot of bands I've never even heard of. And then that's then I'll come into the kitchen and that's what she's listening to. So it's fun, but it's outstanding. It's incredible. And even my son, who he's not a big like musical kind of guy, he loves that, soundtrack.
Yeah.
So, But it's good stuff.
So I have Almost Famous on my list because this was the spirit of rock and roll in the 70s. It had this authentic and iconic soundtrack. Tiny Dancer, Elton John, so many others. But the reason I wanted to bring that particular song up is Elton John said that after that movie, that his single got a boost again. Like it came around and people were like listening to it. Such a good song.
Oh,
That
it
is
is
such a good movie too.
I
So
love that movie.
yeah, it's so good. And then I have School of Rock, which is, I took my boys to go watch this when they were young and they were just beginning their musical journey. So it was like perfect timing for them, for me, because we both all love music. And so this movie, it was such a love letter to rock music.
Mm-hmm.
And it was blending classics like Led Zeppelin and AC/DC, Fleetwood Mac. All of those songs were in this. And it just reinvigorated my passion for rock music. And it just started them on their journey. So I love that movie. Jack Black is so good in it. So I just think he's so good. Jack Black, he's freaking amazing.
He really is.
Yes.
School of Rock.
So
It's one of our family. We love that movie. Yeah. And watch it pretty frequently because it's like, oh, hey, we haven't watched it for a while. Turn it back on, So,
right. It's one of those. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's one that you really can't get tired of. You just put it on. You could put it on at whatever point.
Yeah.
And just watch it because it's hilarious.
Yeah. Did you see that two of the actors, the kid actors that were in it, got married?
No.
Yes, I can't remember now which one.
Married?
Yeah, there were two. One of the girls that sang she had like the blonde pigtails, and she kind of belted with the three girls.
Yes,
Her. And then the little boy, I think he was just a road crew, but I can't remember their names or anything. But it was they got married, and that like a lot of the cast were able to come to the wedding and everything. So anyway,
well, it's funny because I didn't recall that, but then as you're talking, I'm thinking maybe I did read this because so many times I've revisited that movie and that soundtrack. Actually, my son sent me a clip, I think. One of my sons sent me a clip because I think one of the kids passed away too, unfortunately.
Maybe, I think so.
Yeah. But, it's like, where are they now? Because they were so good, such good musicians. Talented.
So talented.
And some of them, I think, weren't actual musicians and some of them were. So, it was just, it just depended on which kid it was, but they all acted so well. It was so fun. That was such a fun movie. Go watch it, everybody.
Yes.
All right. So the last one I think I want to talk about is Titanic from 1997. And the reason, Celine Dion singing My Heart Will Go On is just mind-blowing awesomeness. But I also wanted to bring this up because like I had mentioned to you about Forrest Gump, the music, James Horner and this music is so cool. It's so beautiful. It's haunting. It brings it all together. Even when they play the violins on the ship as it's sinking, but just as the music swells, as when Rose is getting on the boat, the music, it makes everything feel so grand. And there's just all these different moments. The music when she's going down in that little boat and Jack and her fiance are up at the top looking at her and her boat's going down and the music's playing. Oh, it's so haunting. So music just really transports us, moves us, and it's just so good. So I had to bring that up, even though it really only has actually that Irish music in it too. So there are a lot of songs in this along with
one scene that always stands out that had just like the music behind it was the ship was way under and there's a girl floating in the water. She's obviously dead, and it's probably like her gown or jammy, it might even been pajamas, but just the way it was draping as she was floating through that and the music it's just so haunting, and it was like beautiful but so sad, and it was I just remember that just stands out so much, I mean the whole film is just incredible. I watch it all the time. That's another one that you can just put it on anytime. But that scene and the music that plays then is just it just sticks with you.
It does. It totally does. Yeah. It just really does. I just think the music, like out of all music in movie, I'm not talking about actual songs that we hear, but of all the music, that to me is my favorite, like, music. I mean, there's a lot. It's funny, I was asking my son about soundtracks, and his mind automatically went to the music, not really songs.
Yeah.
I think with you and I, we're thinking more of the songs that
Yep.
had an impact on us, because he was like, oh, Lord of the Rings and this and that. And I'm thinking, wow, you're really coming up with different things that I was thinking of. But okay, those are good ones.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings, outstanding. Yeah, but I do gravitate towards the songs. I do too. Because they tell the story. They, even though the other, like, you can't go wrong with Lord of the Rings, but I like to hear the lyrics, I guess, is what, they kind of resonate more or something.
Yeah. Or knowing what those lyrics mean, even if you do hear the music, it's like, oh, you know the words and what that song, when you hear the music, what it means to you.
Yeah.
At the top of this, I did talk about Grease, and I felt like I had a brain fog and couldn't remember any of the other songs. You had to kind of help me along. But I do want to say some of the other songs were You're the One That I Want, of course, right? That iconic scene at the end, and Summer Nights.
Yeah.
When they're talking about,
yes.
Yeah. And they're talking
that's
about
such a fun scene.
Yeah, it is. So I wanted to add those because they were so important. All right. So let's get to our top 3 movie soundtracks, Renee. So let me know what one of yours is.
Well, I already talked about The Lost Boys because that's my absolute favorite. And I guess people probably don't want to hear me ramble on anymore about it, but it's just good.
No.
And so, but it's, and if you've never watched The Lost Boys, watch that. Okay, start there. And then you'll listen to the music as it's going along. And then listen to the soundtrack and kind of pay more attention to each song. I've written a couple articles about it because to me it's just so iconic, and there's so much, you've got all these people that you're just like, oh, that's what's his name? Like you don't realize that it's, the lead singer of Foreigner. You don't realize that it's, Roger Daltrey from The Who. You don't, you just don't realize a lot of that because you just hear these songs and they're great songs. Oh, this is wonderful. But then when you do a little deeper dive into it, it's just got a lot of, and it fits the movie so well. So that's my.
Go ahead and.
Oh, you
go ahead and give. Yeah.
So I put Purple Rain because it, like you were saying, it's just iconic all the way across, And I put in my notes, Gotta Love Prince because, Pretty Woman, she said that in there. So that was my Pretty Woman reference. But I think the movie itself, a lot of the acting was not good. My daughter will watch it and kind of laugh at certain points because
yeah.
But the soundtrack just developed the story, so you kind of were able to ignore like not so great acting at times and whatever. And my favorite performance, you had kind of mentioned some of your favorite, in that I loved when they did I Would Die For You. That one to me was just such a great, and they had a little, I don't know. I really, really liked that one. So that one. And then I had School of Rock listed and Muppet Movie, but I think I'll go with my third one. I'll do Sing Street, which I mentioned before.
Yeah.
And just again, because that movie, I don't know, it just was one of those ones, like I watched it and I was just so, it had been a long time since a movie, like, that was in 2016. And I guess it just had been a long time that I could remember a soundtrack affecting me that much to fit with this story and that kind of stuff. So yeah, so those were the ones that I had.
Those are good ones. Good ones. All right. So I have Saturday Night Fever.
Okay.
So this defined disco and brought the Bee Gees' incredible sound to the forefront. Staying Alive is such a standout, and it's unforgettable harmonies and that vibe, and it just captures it all perfectly. Before I get to John Travolta, I do want to say I was already a fan of the Bee Gees along when this came out. So I like a lot of their music, but this just brought them to the masses because it was so popular. I believe it's one of the biggest selling albums of all time or soundtracks of all time. I did read that somewhere. I saw somebody recently, which I really loved. It was, how they have those reaction videos where somebody listens to a song and they react to it. I saw somebody do that to Staying Alive, and they thought it was women singing. And then they weren't sure that they didn't know it was 3 brothers. And they were they're either a really good actor or their mind was blown. They were so good at their reaction to listening to that song and reacting to it. They just couldn't believe it. And they're just so good. They're really good songwriters.
Yeah.
Like there are so many songs. Was it Staying Alive? Now I'm trying to remember if it was that song because there's somebody, the other song that I really, really love. Michael Bublé covers it. Everybody covers this song. And I can't remember if it's Love Somebody. I'm going to have it in our show notes so I don't have it wrong, but it's one of my favorite songs of theirs. But back to the movie, John Travolta, just him strutting down the street with the music in the background and then him on that dance floor. People were like amazed at his talent too as a dancer. We didn't even talk about Pulp Fiction, which is another one, but it's so legendary. So that is one of my all-time favorite movie soundtracks. Another one is from one of my favorite bands, and that's ABBA, and that is Mamma Mia. So this is such a celebration of ABBA's timeless music. Again, I was a big fan of theirs before this movie came out, and I love both of them. I love all the movies, and I just think it's amazing. I think one of my favorite songs is "Winner Takes It All." There's just something about how that how that song just builds into this powerful, passionate crescendo. So I love that one. And then I have Purple Rain, just like you, because, and you're totally correct about the movie not being at its best, but that soundtrack is at its best and so good. And Let's Go Crazy is probably my favorite song on that soundtrack. There's just something about it that I love, and I can't help but sing along to it and turn it up on the radio if I'm listening to it.
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, at the beginning with the dearly, dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. And then the music goes, it's just pure magic. So I love that. Oh my gosh, we could go on, but we will get to our question of the day. So, and this is going to be a hard one. So, friends out there, and Renee, I would love to know, what's a song from a movie soundtrack that stands on its own, like it could have been a hit even without the movie?
So I did a lot of thinking. I'm trying to, keep trying to think because there's, several ones, but I'm going back to the Lost Boys because Cry Little Sister is it's one of those songs that it fits this vampire themed movie so well. But at the same time, if you listen to those lyrics, it's dark and it's like very emotion stirring. And then you have this choir backing him and his voice is incredible. And, the cool thing about that song, he wrote it without ever seeing one scene from the movie, which is hard to believe because it fits so well.
Yeah.
But he, so you got that where, he knew it was about vampires. I think he maybe knew that part. That was it. But he made it, you listen to those lyrics and things, and it's about these rejected children. They're just looking for a place to belong. And that's what the vampire, they'll welcome them in, like, oh, you don't have a home anymore. Oh, come with us, or, whatever kind of thing. And so I just think, if you just heard that song, you just be like, oh, you wouldn't necessarily equate it with the vampires and things like that. But you could feel that, about the children longing for a place to belong and, that kind of stuff. So I thought that could be, and I didn't realize till after I started thinking about that that was the case where he that he wrote it without seeing any of the movie. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, that is. You are always coming up with our little trivia that I loved.
I read a lot of music stuff, so
Okay, so I have a hard time too, and I am just going to say one that came to mind, and whether it would stand up or not, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But the one that came to mind when I thought of this question was Don't You Forget About Me by Simple Minds. I know that Breakfast Club, and he's throwing up his fist, and then that song comes on, and everybody was like, "What's this song?" And then they probably went and listened to it, and that's why it became such a hit, because I think it was their biggest hit Simple Minds ever had here in the U.S. But I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it helped it a lot, but I like that song. There's something about the song when I hear it, and when I heard it back then, that just stuck out to me. And I thought I would have listened to this even if I hadn't heard the movie. So I could have gone with something iconic like Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On, but she's already a huge, iconic singer that I love. And that, by the way, that is one of my all-time favorite songs ever, 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 ever. And then second, it would be Whitney Houston's song, but I Will Always Love You. But I didn't want to go with what the masses say. So I'm sticking with
different. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm sticking. Although I did think about also Top Guns with Berlin. Take My Breath Away. Yeah. I did sort of think about that, but no, there's something about, I'm like, you know what? My gut told me to say Simple Minds.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great one. Other bands have covered it. And I agree with what you're saying, because you just hear it. It's like, oh, this is a great rock song. When these other covers of it, made it more of a rock song or whatever. But I think that's a great one.
Cool. Thank you. I like knowing that, because then that all the more tells you that, it was a good song. And, if people are covering it, then they really did like that song. It was iconic in the movie, by the way, though.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right. Well, friends out there, what do you think? What's a song from a movie soundtrack that you think stands on its own without the movie? We would love to know. You can leave us a comment here on YouTube or Spotify. You can get to us on social media and let us know that way, or you can call us at 669-223-8542, because we want to know what song that is. All right. So we are wrapping up this segment of our music, because I would like to know from Renee her TV and movie recommendations for the week.
All right. Well, I almost forgot about this one when I was making my list. I'm so glad it popped into my head. And maybe I already said it to you another time, but it's a horror movie called Getaway, but with Nick Frost in it.
And I didn't know.
Okay, so it's on Shudder, and it is. It starts out a little bit slow, and I'm one of those people that if it doesn't engage me quick, then I'm like, on my phone or whatever. But it was like, okay, I'm going to pay more attention, and I'm glad I did, because then it turned out to be a completely different movie than I expected it to be. And it's a horror movie, but it's so good. I was really surprised at how good it was. And so, anyway, I'm not going to give anything away, but it just did take a different turn than I expected. And it was like, this is a great movie. So if you like horror movies, check that out on Shudder, called Getaway, and Nick Frost is in it. And so, that one I really liked. And then on the other end, my husband had me watch Cuckoo. Have you watched that? It's a
No.
Okay, I did not like it. I thought it was, I don't know. I just didn't. But my husband and daughter, I don't know if my daughter had watched it yet. That was my husband's second time watching it, because he liked it so much.
Wow.
So don't go by my opinion, but I wasn't a fan. So, and I finally watched Wonka with Timothée Chalamet. I had never watched it, and I'm such an idiot. I literally didn't know. I thought it was just remaking the regular story. I didn't know what it was about and all this. There was origin and all this kind of, and I really enjoyed it, because I'm always kind of like, oh, we're doing this again, kind of thing. And that was completely lost on me that's what it was. So I did enjoy it. Finally,
awesome.
How long later? And right now we're going through going through 1923 Taylor Sheridan, because the second season's coming out on February 26th. So we're gearing up for that. And we've been going through Silo. I think I like it more than my husband does, so we haven't watched it as fast as a lot. But I like it. It's really good.
Yeah.
That one's really good. And then, I don't know did you ever watch School Spirits? And I can't tell you where it's streamed.
No, but I think it's on, or it was on Netflix. You've told me about it before. Yeah.
Well, the second season, I think it's out. Or if not, it's real soon, this week even. But I'm excited to get into the second season of that. It's kind of a teen movie, but it's spirits who wherever they die, that's where they have to stay. So if it's in a building or if it's, whatever, they can't leave that space and stuff. And so it's, but it's a teen movie kind of thing, but it's very well done. And I can't wait to find out what happens next. So I'm excited for that one.
I believe Peyton List is in that, correct?
That sounds right. Yeah, I think that's who it is. Yeah.
She is in Cobra Kai.
Yes.
And I do want to say Cobra Kai's, I'm really heartbroken already. It hasn't even come out yet, but it's coming out February 13th, the final 5 episodes. And I saw the trailer, and why do I feel so sad? I feel so sad.
That's too bad. I hate that.
Yeah. And seriously, like it's aching. It's like an ache because it's something that it's time. I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but at the same time, because it was so nostalgic, Karate Kid movie from the 80s. And then here we are. And it's like this whole time of our life. And it's like done. It's like done. I mean, yes, there could be, I think there's going to be another Karate Kid movie, but it's going to be with different people. And I'm sure it'll be great. I can't wait to see that. But just this the people involved, the relationships they have, and it's just going to be one of those things. So anyway, it's a great series and it's coming out, but the Peyton List is in it. That's how we got to that. All right. So I have a few quick recommendations for you. And the first one, and I told Renee, I emailed her and I said, you must watch this because Paradise is on Hulu. It is with Charlene K. Brown, who was in This Is Us. 3 episodes. It's so good. It's mind-blowing. So I can't give you anything because something happens in the very first episode that just flips it on its head. You're like, what is happening? Did you ever watch This Is Us, Renee?
No, I did not. I mean, I know a lot about it, but I have not watched. Yeah, it's one of those other ones where it's like, okay, I need to watch that. How many years later, that it started and everything. So, yeah.
This Is Us is so good. But in This Is Us, the very first episode, again, I won't give it away to you or anybody else who hasn't watched it, but in the very first episode at the end, because it's the same creator who did both of them. But at the very end, the way he's written it, I can't give it away, but something happens at the end and you're like, it's not like mind blowing, like the world isn't really the world or anything like that. In This Is Us, it's just something very cool that you didn't see coming, like something really cool. You're like, what? This is such good writing. Like you're just couldn't believe that happened and that this is where we're at. So in that television show, that's what happened. Well, in this one takes it a step further, but it's really good. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah,
and Sterling K. Brown is really good. Yeah. It's like a political thriller. Or you think that's what it's going to concentrate on. And it might be more than that. But, he plays a Secret Service agent or CIA guy and it goes from there. So it's really good. I also watch a movie called Here on Netflix. And this is with Tom Hanks and Robin Wright.
Oh, yeah.
I am going to tell you the very beginning. It might take you a few minutes to get into it because it's hard to explain, but you see this little rectangle and they use that in their visuals. And you're like, and then other things are happening on the outside. And you're like, what are they doing with this? But it doesn't last the whole way through. I mean, they use it as a symbolic way, but it gets to the meat of what you're watching. And as you start to know who the characters are Tom Hanks and Robin Wright, then the story, you become, involved in the story. But the reason it's doing that is it is taking you over the span of a century at this location and what has happened at that location through the years. Okay. And it's actually quite I wouldn't say it's not heartbreaking, but it moves you in a way. So if you've ever lived in a house or had a home that meant a lot to you, your family and other people, this will reinstill that or you'll understand that because life happens and it's just interesting to see life go on and different people and in a certain place. So it's a nice movie. Just stick with it. It is very good. It has a good message. So that is out on Netflix. I did watch You're Cordially Invited on Prime. This is with Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon. It wasn't that great. So I'm going to tell you that. The best part is that Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon are in it, but yeah, the story is very predictable and it isn't anything new. And I love them, both of those actors, and I really like to watch anything that Reese Witherspoon is in. Yeah, not my favorite. If you just feel like watching something that is very predictable, then check it out. But don't expect, and I did laugh. I am going to tell you, I did laugh because Will Ferrell's hard not to laugh at.
Right.
and at the very end, like after it ends, there is a you know, how they have the end scenes and they have Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon singing Islands. What is it called?
Stream?
Yeah, Islands in the Stream. Yeah. I was going to say Dreams. I'm like, that's the wrong word. Yeah. I love that song.
Yeah.
It's funny. Them singing that song is funny. And then it plays a part in the movie too that I won't give away, but that was probably the highlight. I was watching the end, like just dying because they were cracking me up. And then just so everyone knows, Gladiator 2, which I did see in the theaters, it is now out on Paramount Plus. So we are in the midst of rewatching that again. So I did like it a lot. So that's my recommendation on that. All right. So that wraps up our conversation today on movie soundtracks and our TV and movie recommendations. But Renee, thank you so much for joining me. It was so fun talking with you.
Yes, always fun. And yeah, I was so excited to do these music episodes.
Yeah, I love it. And I knew you would be the perfect person because soundtracks just have that magical way of making stories unforgettable. And I knew that music was important to you. Music is important to me. And so I knew this would be a fun conversation. And for friends out there, music is important to you, I think, because you're tuning in. So thank you so much for dropping in with us. I do want to remind you to check out Renee's links to her writings. That is in our show notes because I know she mentioned it earlier about writing articles on music and such. So be sure to check that out. Remember to subscribe to Screens in Focus. We are so grateful that you joined us today. We hope that we gave you a smile, a chuckle, some knowledge. Again, those links are in our show notes to things that we talked about. And we just want to remind you to keep exploring, keep watching, and keep those screens in focus. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.